making sure the younger does not start to do things how they want to do them. Just to keep that level of accountability, make sure that you're still honoring, understanding kind of the gravity of what work it is you're trying to do. Because you get the young and up and comer, and they want to reshape everything, redo everything, and not necessarily, but it doesn't take long, couple generations, and you can easily turn off of what you've been commanded to do into what you were told to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh,
Let's go to the left.
my head.
Yes.
Was it a good head though? Good head. All right, good.
But that's why I don't see them like at age 50, they go to the beach and put their feet up for the remainder of their days.
Yeah.
It's just the heavy lifting, leave it to the youngins. And that, I'm a big fan of that these days, actually. When it comes to stuff getting done, back in the day, yeah, okay, we'll man up and we'll do stuff. Now I'm like, all right, you guys do it.
Time to cut down the trees for Sukkot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would align as well with what it talks about in Proverbs of the old men would go and sit in the courts to go judge between individuals. I think there's a parallel there in the... Thank you. That's going to take a little bit of getting used to there.
Yeah. That's
But I think there's a parallel there with what it talks about in Proverbs of the old men who have proven themselves, who have raised a family, who have proven themselves wise, would go and sit in the courts, the gates of the city, and basically judge between legal cases, where it's not necessarily about the physicality or the ability to go out and go charge and get something done, but it's much more about the wisdom, the experience, the age to ensure that things stay on course. I think there's a parallel structure going on there.
Well, you see that like in professional hockey. You get the young people come out and they're strong, they're full of energy, they're fast, and it's a different dynamic. But they don't have the understanding of like the subtleties of things. So you have the older guys, they can beat the younger guys with wisdom, even though they can be outpaced, they can do other stuff, because they understand things that the younger ones don't quite yet, then they impart that knowledge over the course of time. But I think you can kind of see that anywhere, hopefully. But
It's not just hockey.
yeah, it's everywhere.
We can beat them anywhere.
Yeah.
we can.
We'll get you to go fight yourself.
Yeah.
You're like,
Judo. I was just going to point out relative to Sam's comment, right? That's what you see in Ruth, right? When Boaz goes to the edge of the city where everybody's sitting there to actually assert the right of the redeemer, instruct the nearest redeemer, right? And they sit, trade sandals. So, yeah. Oh. Yeah, I'm not going to throw it over people. That's just okay.
You see, maybe being young, my reflexes are still really sharp and I can catch that.
let's not get ahead of ourselves there, Sam.
Right? But there was another one in Proverbs. It talks about the glory of young men being their strength and the glory of old men being their crown of gray hair. And so I think there's that trade-off going as well. It's you trade one for the other as you age. And you end up needing both just to get anything done, right? It's great if you can teach us all how to use an axe, but we still got to put the axe to the tree. And I don't want to be out there for 4 hours on a cold morning trying to whack a tree with a crowbar. Just not going to go well, right? So there's that coordination element there as well that I'm seeing.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about people complaining? That's always a good one, right? Because we can talk about other people. We can point the finger at how other people complain. And how could they, I mean, you even, it says the, where is it? The mixed crowd that was with them, they grew greedy for an easier life. That's not us.
Not at all.
That's not how we do things. That's not why we surrender 8 to 12 hours a day trying to collect things so that we can replace the other things that we had to collect. But worse than that, people of Israel, for their part, also renewed their weeping and said, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we used to eat in Egypt. It cost us nothing. Think about that.
Looking back, bondage always seems better in the rear view.
It does, and I don't know how that works. You know, it's like you soften reality somehow. And, you know, I think some of it is, okay, good. It's good to kind of grow up and get over things and leave stuff behind you. But to go back and say that misery had no cost, you know, yeah, we got fish. Yeah, our life was miserable. But we didn't have to eat this manna stuff every day. Are you kidding? I mean, how we just trick ourselves into thinking that somehow what he's given us right now clearly isn't enough, which is why we strive. It's why we continue to go and collect and grab and collect and grab, because what we have right now is not enough. We have to have more. Even if it's like, well, no, you don't understand. We're living on a level, right? I'm not getting rich in this deal. But I'm sure your lifestyle's probably amplified 8, 10 levels from, well, I mean, depending on what part of the globe you go to, could be thousands of multiples there. So the trouble is everything is in comparison. It's relative to my environment right now and my neighbor's environment, the things that they have, the things that I have, the things that I want, the things that they have that I want. So easy to get pulled into lifestyle, and we get trapped, and it's so subtle. And yet we continue, and we continue, and we continue. So then the counter argument clearly out of the gate, right? We can go, this is a biblical rebuttal. Well, if you don't work, you don't eat. Right? Well, you got to put a roof over your family's head. Okay. So food and shelter. How much does that actually cost you?
What type of food are we talking?
What type of food are we talking exactly?
We're talking almost in weeks. You can say our first house mortgage was like $600 something, and then $200 on top of that. So we say roughly $800.
Basically, all we get done in life is food and shelter.
And that's what Abba says that he'll give us, right? Clothing. You know, Yeshua says this, the Sermon on the Mount. Clothing and food. What are you worried about? These animals in the field. Look at the flowers. Really, he'll take care of you. And then so we somehow take that and parlay it up into, well, I got to be hitting 6 figures if we're just going to survive. In Socorro? Are you kidding me? Not even. It's that lifestyle is what pulls and has the demand. It's meeting that. It's exactly this thing here. It's the mixed crowd. You know, they grew greedy for an easier life. This is the pull. This is the bait that is just set out there, and then we watch other people and we run in comparison, and that'll just destroy anybody in a minute, because there's always, what is it, anytime you're playing sports, there's always somebody bigger and stronger, right? Always. Always somebody that's better than you are. So we take that and we apply it to real life. So why is it so difficult to be content? Yeah, no, that's actually a question. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I would like even more context because when you say you think about it, right? Okay, here they are, right? What this is the second year, right after the Exodus, on top of 400 years, right? I mean, so to the degree that their groaning because of the oppression that they were under was so great that they were brought to the remembrance of Abba and tremendous miracle. Like we're not talking like, man. I mean, we do that sometimes. We're like, oh, we had this wonderful house in Albuquerque, right? Like that house is probably the nicest house we'll have ever lived in, and probably will ever live in. Had everything, and yet we lived in Albuquerque. And so, I mean, maybe you like Albuquerque, but not so much when you have to live there, right? And like constant just robberies and shootings. And I mean, yeah, there's lots of really nice comfort things there, a bunch of really nice restaurants. You have a bunch of access to really great things. But there's times we could look back, because the house we bought, it's got some problems, right? Sometimes we're like, man, remember that house? But at the point we were there, it's like this house it's nice, but where we live is not great, right? So it's almost like that. You can see that. It's crazy how you can end up going back to some of that stuff. But in the moment of, the drywall's falling in around our rear swamp cooler, like, man, that other house is so nice. But I think about it in the context of the Israelites, they're, slaving to build Pharaoh's empire. Yeah, Egypt was probably like Albuquerque. And so, right? A lot of really nice restaurants. I don't know. When you said let that sink in, that's what I went to was, you're not just talking like, a few years in Albuquerque where we lived in a nice house. You're talking about 400 years of oppression.
It just reminds me of like the garden. Seems like when you're saying contentment, I just think like, and similar to what you're saying of like the house thing, like there's 5 things that Abba said we're supposed to do, and there's this one thing we're not supposed to do. And the enemy makes me curious about it. Why is this thing really making me curious about this one thing that Abba said that I can't be a part of? This fruit. So yeah, I don't know. It was interesting, like those 5 things were supplied. There was a helper provided. Name the animals, you have your task, you have your identity, it's all established. But there's still this like want to see that new thing or that other thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so another aspect of it is like people like to have goals to accomplish. So I mean, they've just spent the past year or so building the tabernacle, getting that all together. Everyone was super enthusiastic about that. They get it done, they celebrate, they start moving, and what's next? Like, we're stagnating. It's been a week, and they feel like they're stagnating. Well, now they have the temple there. Now they can do all the sorts of work on the inside, but you can't see that. And, we see this today. It's like people are never satisfied with enough money. They always got to build and move on to the next thing. And I think if you take that and continue to run with it, you eventually end up with the Tower of Babel. Like, let's elevate ourselves up to that level. So I think it is just kind of like that progression.
Yeah, I think it goes back to just idolatry of status and meaning, right? In the garden, you'll be like God. And you see Israel do this. We do it in our own lives. But like, oh, we want to be like these other nations, so give us a king. Or we want to do these things. It's that outward status that you can then ascribe meaning to, which to me just looks like idolatry. You just don't trust or understand fully who Abba says we are. Like, we don't understand the fullness of that, and so then we have to leverage Abba's blessings to make ourselves higher in status, higher in elevating ourselves. which is just striving, I think.
I think part of it too is fear, because you have to, if in order to figure out what makes you content, you have to look inward, at least for me. So then you have to actually take the time to be like, well, what do I actually need to live? And that's where you realize how terrible you are. And that's like a thing, at least for me, I try and avoid, because I'm like, well, no, I need a fancy car. And I'm like, wait, do I need a fancy car? Am I a terrible person? And so it's having to actually take that time and be like, okay, how do I separate my desires from what is necessary? And at least for me, I don't want to ascribe to everyone. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to know because I want more. I don't want to have to make that discernment. It's easier to live in what's comfortable to me, which is striving. Because, you know, high school, you're just trying to get out of high school. So you're striving to get out of high school and go do something. You leave and now you're like, I'm in college. Well, I need to get my degree. So I'm always thinking forward. I don't have to look backwards. I don't have to look inside and be like, what is God actually calling to me to do? It's just, what do I want to do? That's all that matters, right? Which is obviously false, but that's what I tell myself sometimes. So I think there's a level of like, we don't want to do the introspection to actually figure out what contentment means. But I could just be rambling.
So I think it goes. Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna add to what this young man said. I think contentment, and I don't need the ball, I got it figured out.
For the people online.
I think the struggle to be content is a battle that we have to get up and face every day and every morning. And I see it so much in the business world. So you have people with a job, and so they're not content. They want to be an entrepreneur. They want to have their own. They don't like their boss. They feel like they're under bondage. Nobody appreciates me. Nobody sees me. Nobody. So then they go out and open up their own business, and then they realize, hey, I'm having to bring my work home. I don't have that nice cushy company car. Nobody's paying for my gas. Nobody's buying my insurance. I have to make these hard decisions. And then they start to look back and say, I wish I had that good job again. And so in neither place are you satisfied. And we all battle with that, with spouses, no matter what. There's always, so I believe that each day we got to make that decision. Today I will be content in the things that the Lord has for me, because we will always try to look over our shoulder. It's human nature.
And that's, Wellington had used the word goal. And I think we are, especially guys, are kind of goal driven. You like to have something set out there. I can't really speak for women. It could be true for them also, just saying. But it's like the next thing, you want to feel like you matter, like you're contributing, like you actually make a difference somehow. And I think when you start having that feeling like I don't matter, then I think that's where a lot of the striving comes in. And that can be deeply rooted from when you're wee little, of never being able to measure up, and so you're like, well, I'll show everybody. And then you end up being an overachiever, trying to push. But still, it's never enough because you haven't actually satisfied the issue. The issue is still there. But what's fascinating, when we step back from all of that and look at why we're here, what our point is, what contentment should be, and contentment should be dwelling in the house of God and being a light unto the nations. It's having that vertical connection and then the horizontal humility and repentance when it comes to our brothers. And at the end of the day, I think we may have just kind of mislabeled our goals. Because if my goal in life is to make sure that you're better and I run in a comparative model, then by default, if I'm making you better, then that makes me worse and I can't resolve that. I need to also be better. And this is what the push is, that we're to be a servant of all. And all is not the all that you have deemed worthy of you serving. It's everybody. And I think at a foundational level, I think that's hard to come to grips with. When we live in that space of comparison of how things used to be or how things could be, everything. It doesn't have to be necessarily comparison with another person. It could be comparison with yourself. You know, I used to be this way. I used to be young and fit, and I could bench 275, and then all of a sudden you're 80 and you can't. Well, do you really want to be that person? You know, this is one of those things where I have not reached the point in my life where I wish I could go back to any previous point in my life. I have not reached it. I don't have a point to be like, oh man, it was, if the coach would have put me in, we'd have won state. You know, sure, but you're never going to have that opportunity to kind of redo and revisit. But then you also have the future you. You know, little exercise you can do. Look at your life. Look ahead 1 year, 5 years, and how you picture what your life is going to be. And then do the same experiment going back. What was life like a year ago? Well, pretty much kind of like it is right now. How was it 5 years ago? Probably a lot like it is right now. But we have this illusion that next year, 5 years, 10 years, that's where the pasture is. Whew. That's what we're running for. Yeah, I gotta run in the mud right now, but man, right there, that's where it's gonna all shine. Trouble is you never get there. Or you get there and you've destroyed everything along the way so that nobody's listening to you in the gates. What do I want to listen to you for? What? Okay.
Or you get there alone.
You get there alone. And same issue, right? All this I traded for what? So contentment is something that I've really kind of tumbled on for a long time because it's easy for me to think that yes, I'm content as long as I have all the stuff that I want. As soon as I don't have those things, that's when it starts to rise up. And that's where I'm like, hey, well, and then I'm looking, when an opportunity is, maybe need a promotion, because something has come up that has triggered that deep issue that you're fundamentally dealing with. So, I mean, I've heard it said there's nothing wrong with a dictatorship as long as you're the dictator. This is true on so many levels. As long as I have everything I need / want, then sure, I am completely content. The second any of that is challenged, show up Monday, lose your job, how content are you at that point? That's where it really starts to challenge. And a lot of us, we don't know. Go back to the rich young ruler, and he's like, I've kept all the commands, I've done it all. And he's like, okay, well, give everything away. And he went away sad. Because the issue wasn't the fact that he was checking all the boxes and doing everything right. He didn't get rebuked for that. It was, okay, but you have this hook that's in you. And until that hook is gone, you're not actually going to be free. And here it is. Now what we do is like, yeah, sure, if Yeshua was standing in front of me and he was like, I want you to give away everything, yes, sir, really? Because I think we've already been directly told that we have to give up absolutely everything. If you want your life, you have to give up your life. This is the model. But we run in that, well, he's not actually here technically right now. I'm not that guy. And of course, he would never really ask me to do that. All those things are showing you the hook. When you start running through all the stories in your mind of, well, he wouldn't actually, that doesn't make any sense. I have to take care of my family. All the tumbling that starts to get generated there should be an invitation for you to come and look deeply into the mirror. Now, Was it necessary that he give up all of his stuff? My argument would be probably not. That wasn't the point. The point wasn't that take all your stuff and take care of the poor people and be destitute the rest of your life and you be now counted amongst the poor because that's going to be super great. I don't think that's what's being communicated at all. What I think is being communicated is those things that have you deeply rooted into the earth that for whatever reason you just simply can't see. Those things need to go. There's nothing wrong with you having a job that you enjoy or that you pay that pays well, or you have this, you have that, you go here. There's nothing fundamentally broken with those unless those things shape your identity. And they have anchored you into, I have to now serve in the earth in order to have this stuff because that's the only way I find fulfillment.
I think that's exactly what Abba tested Abraham on, is the one thing that he wanted, the one thing he was praying for years and years and years, Abba finally blessed him with in his timing, not Abraham's. He tried to make it happen, and that was disastrous. We're still feeling those effects. But he takes Abraham to the top of the mountain and asks him, will you give up the promise I promised you, that I've given you? Or is that promise going to rule you? And I think when it comes to our own striving, we have that pie in the sky, oh, if I could just get there. And then maybe Abba gives it to us and it's, oh, well, to the next thing. And the thing that he gives us, the blessing that we wanted, rules us and becomes our identity. And then we go to the next thing and the next thing until we hit rock bottom, and then eventually we hear from him like, hey, you missed it, kind of.
Well, and that's those situations where, especially like in a Christian community, people pray about something and they're like, clearly this is what Abba wants. You go forward and it's a disaster. What? So now, what the pros will come tell you is, well, you're probably listening to the wrong voices there. I disagree-ish, and not blanket, but maybe it's because you wouldn't hear anything else otherwise. You need to go and experience this to realize this is not what you really want, but you're so bullheaded and hard-headed, you're not going to listen to reason. You're going to find every excuse under the sun to validate your decision to move forward. So the only way you're actually going to learn is by learning. So, sure. I think the one thing I tread the lightest on is I don't want Abba to give me what I want if it's not what he is wanting. That being said, if I'm needing to go through that in order to have all this filth broken off, maybe. Do I want to do that? No. And then you run like in that duplicity of, well, I'm getting everything I want, but this is absolutely horrible. Why is this horrible? And hopefully you reach the point of confronting yourself. It's like Esias was talking about. Finally looking into the mirror and coming to grips with who's standing in front of you.
That's Moses standing before the land, right? Like, all right, go on, I'm not going with you. And Moses is like, whoa. I don't want any of that other stuff if you're not with me, because you matter more to me. Your presence matters more to me.
Yeah. And
we don't take that position very often, if at all. You're like, surely the Lord has blessed me. Let's run headlong into it. I do this constantly. I'm maybe getting a little better about actually being like more thoughtful about things, but yeah, I think it's just we have a culture that's built around blessing equals monetary gain, cursing equals monetary loss.
Then it has to
Blessing,
be monetary.
yeah,
Blessing
gain,
is increase, curse
Yeah.
is decrease.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could do the same with health or any of these things. Yeah. Yeah, like I don't think most people would count it as a blessing to have a bum hip from wrestling with God like Jacob had, right? But he was face to face with his Creator, and he limped for the rest of his life, so that he couldn't run from his brother. Essentially, was that a blessing or a curse?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because that Torah portion is the one that's running on regular cycle right now.
Yeah.
And looking at the similarities between these two, watching Moses here and Jacob here, and seeing the challenges that they each were facing. Moses facing them as internal threats, people that are part of the inner. Jacob facing the exact same issues externally, wrestling with the how am I possibly supposed to face this person? How can I do it? And then with Moses, he's like, at one time, he's like, why did you give me these people? Why? And then you watch where Aaron and Miriam both come and start attacking him and challenging him, kind of Korah-like in some ways. And he's like, intercedes for him, Abba, please, I beg you, please heal her. And I'm just thinking how difficult it is as a leader to live in those two veins of, man, this is a lot, but man, it's worth it. And that's hard because I heard it once said, and I know I've shared this before, but I'm old, so you can just hear it again. John Maxwell said something years ago that stuck with me. He said, 95% of what leaders do, anybody can do. Which is why, sitting underneath, looking up, it's easy to cast accusations and point, I could do that. I could do that. But it's that last 5%. That's the part that makes the difference. It's making difficult decisions, having difficult conversations, and staying true to what it is you've been called to do, even if people are grumbling and complaining as a result. 5% is all. 5% of your life as a leader is, and if you look through...
Condemned for it. So there's a very strong biblical precedent for that idea of do not compare to the past. You've got a temple. You didn't have a temple 5 minutes ago. You've got one now. Why are you caring about what's already gone? I'll just hand that to you.
Was someone else going? I didn't miss. Okay. I remember Dry did this teaching at large group last year, maybe, about prayer. I'm not sure exactly when it was, but I was trying to look for the slides on it, and I found it. Super helpful because 2 years ago? Okay. But something that stood out to me when Dry did that teaching was the Hebrew, like the Paleo-Hebrew, taking all the letters of it, and essentially means to plead to the